Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
All right, welcome to Purple Daily, where there we go. Well, Dex will shuffle that here behind the scenes, where we talk Vikings 365 days a year, just daily Vikings takes. And we will introduce you on this glorious Thursday to all who celebrate, to our guest on the screen in just a moment. But Judd, let's shout out Quick Trip and start the episode the right way here, if you will.
Yep, and let's talk about Quick Trip's Gatorade Border Battle, which is on right now. Team Purple or Green and Gold proud. Either way, you score the ultimate fan experience, and that is, get this, 2 Turf Suite tickets to the Week 18 Vikings-Packers showdown at US Bank Stadium, plus a $250 Quick Trip gift card to fuel your fandom. If you want in, head to your local Quick Trip and purchase any Gatorade product with Quick Rewards, and you'll earn bonus fan zone points. Let the Gatorade Border Battle begin between, of course, the Vikings and Packers. No purchase necessary. Get full details at quicktrip.com/sweepstakes. That's quicktrip.com/sweepstakes.
We got Thor Nystrom from Matthew Berry's FantasyLife.com. Happy Thursday to you, our friend. People have been waiting 3 days to hear your takes on this show. We got the Sports Dad. I'm Phil Mackey. And our guest on today's episode, via Thor Nystrom for hooking this collection up here, hails from Chicago, Illinois. He is the founder of Next Level Athletics quarterback training program, and he has been a private quarterback coach for JJ McCarthy going back to like 7th grade. Greg Holcomb making his first appearance on Purple Daily. Greg, what's up, man?
Hey guys, thanks, man. I really appreciate being on.
Okay, we know what it was like for us watching the fourth quarter of that Monday night game. What was your watching experience throughout those 3 hours?
It was really awesome. Like, it was emotional, obviously. He started out rough, and I kind of, it doesn't obviously feel good. But then, I just know him so well. I was sitting in a suite with all Bears fans, and there was one Viking guy in there. And I just said, watch how he responds, man. Just watch how he responds. That's all I kept saying. Not like talking trash to him, but I was just saying, watch how he responds. And because I've seen him do that before, I've seen him, he doesn't very often have poor games. I go back to the TCU game when he was a sophomore, threw a couple of picks in the first half, came back and played a really good second half. They just obviously didn't pull it out. And then you saw him standing, watching the confetti come down for TCU to go on to the next game. And you just knew like he wasn't going to be in that spot next year. He was going to be under the confetti. So I just, I was very confident knowing that he was going to respond well. And I was just so proud of him. It was almost like, sounds corny, but father-son kind of moment. Like just watching this kid that I've known since he was 12 years old just do something that grand on that big of a stage in front of his home stadium, in front of his home state, on Monday Night Football, and his first, there's so many side stories to that. So it was just super cool.
How do you separate? So Greg, because you know him both as a person well and as a quarterback. So when you're watching him struggle, how do you separate his struggles and what you see him doing maybe incorrectly at times physically from that mental thing that we've talked about and call an it factor, which is a very hard thing to quantify? Very few people have it. He does. But how do you process that? Because you see him not playing well, and some guys would collapse like that would be it. How do you watch that and say, you know what, he's not playing as well as he possibly can, and I can fix some things, but I also know he has a level of mental capacity that most people don't to overcome it? Because to me, that's an interesting thing.
I'm not going to lie, man. I got kind of emotional, when he wasn't playing well. I seriously started to, I got emotional. And because I was just I know this kid is a person more than a football player, And so when you see somebody that you care about struggle, it hurts, right? And so, but I also knew the kind of man he is and the kind of character that he has, that I knew that he would rise above it. And he's just got something inherent in him. We talked about it before we started the show. He's wired differently. He just has this. There's something in his DNA that just doesn't allow him to crumble, to let a negative situation continue to go on. And I thought he looked uncomfortable when the game started. They went 3 and out right away. Like, he just didn't look like himself. And I'm watching him and I'm going like, this doesn't look like the guy that I know. And I need him to obviously find that. And it sounds like, you know, when O'Connell spoke to him in at halftime in the locker room, he's like, you're going to lead this team back. You know, I think he needed that, but I also know that he had it in him internally to do that as well. So, yeah, I mean, I struggled with the emotional part of it, and then being a football fan, being a quarterback evaluator, and just not kind of watching him look uncomfortable. Is it, you know, as if I would watch any other of my quarterbacks, say a high school kid on a Friday night, like, man, he just doesn't look himself. You know, he looks so good in training, but he kind of looks like he's just, you know, hasn't kind of found his groove. And then obviously he found his groove. So, it was great to see, but a lot of mixed emotions, man. You got to separate yourself from a personal relationship standpoint, and then also being a coach and a quarterback evaluator.
Greg, this was a really cool debut for McCarthy. As you know, the NFL debut on Monday, it was sort of an encapsulation of his career to this point, where you overcome an enormous amount of adversity. The first 3 quarters as a team and as an individual for JJ did not go the way that they planned. And then, like you mentioned, JJ comes locked in that fourth quarter and he couldn't miss. And he set multiple NFL records or NFC records or franchise records in that fourth quarter, was obviously named NFC Player of the Week in his debut. I was curious, you know, when you're watching that thing, and obviously there's a lot of emotions there on Monday night, did you see anything in those first 3 quarters where it's like, this is an actionable thing that we can modulate, we can fix going forward? And then I'm curious, in the fourth quarter, just walk people into the mindset of McCarthy, because that thing he did in the fourth quarter, I seen that over and over and over and over again in Ann Arbor, where the odds were stacked up against him, and it's like, there's no way they're going to win this, or no way he's going to come back, and he just does it. So I'm hoping you can give the audience some insight into that mindset too.
Yeah, well, I thought the Bears played really well on defense in the first half. I mean, they just didn't allow the Vikings to do anything, you know? I mean, I don't want to sit here and question play calling, but I was just sitting there going like, man, he's not really being set up for success. And kudos to the Bears for having a strategic game plan to stop them. I honestly felt like kind of the sideline throw to Jetta's was the thing that kind of changed everything. As soon as he ripped that, I was like, here we go. You know, I just knew like that was the thing that was kind of going to like get them going. It was just a throw that was very high level and elite. I thought the one that Jetta's dropped on the sideline toward the Vikings sideline, man, if he could have pulled that in, because that could have been a momentum turner as well. But, you know, things go the way that they go. I didn't know if that was like from where I was sitting, how accurate of a ball that was. And then I saw the replay and I was like, he catches that, you know, almost 9 out of 10 times, 10 out of 10 times. So when he caught the sideline one, I kind of felt like that was going to be the thing that just got them going. And and it did.
Also, like the clinching rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
Looked like kind of an RPO concept.
Yes.
And our guy Alex Boone broke the film down on the Purple Daily Trenches episode a couple days ago. And just like schematically, let's just say this, Greg, they weren't running that in 2022 with old Kirk Cousins.
No, they weren't.
So you don't think of him, and Thor has been brilliant pointing this out for a year and a half. Like when you think of JJ McCarthy at Michigan, well, you're handing off to these horse running backs in this offensive line. But there's an athletic ability and an RPO layer to this playbook. Can you speak to how maybe his legs could be used after what you saw in week 1?
I thought if you could have got away with the Bears sacked him a couple of times or got him in the grasp, and it was literally like right at the very end of him kind of trying to spin out of it. But if you look, he had green grass right in front of him. So they locked him up. That play call, a good friend of mine, Matt Bowen, who writes for ESPN.com, played for a bunch of years in the NFL, broke that down on his Instagram. And just a great play design. Hawkinson stayed in for like just a little bit of a delay and then an arc block out to pick up the corner and just like locked him up all the way into the end zone. So just a really good play call. You can see that they almost left the end man on the line of scrimmage unblocked. So, JJ could read it. He rode the fake, pulled it. And yeah, I mean, he's got speed. If you watched him play at Michigan, they used his legs quite a bit. So, you know, when you're that +1 runner on offense, you make it really hard for a defensive coordinator. When you've got a QB that can be that difference maker with his legs, you just add another layer of complexity to, you know, a defensive strategy to stop you. So you're right. He's, you know, he's a dual threat guy. He's playing in this era of quarterback. Phillip Rivers was an amazing quarterback, 17 years, Hall of Famer. That kind of QB isn't really walking into the league anymore. You've got to have some ability to run the ball and use your legs, and that's today's quarterback. And JJ certainly is in that mold.
Dare I make the comparison, because I actually covered this guy's first start with the Packers. He reminds me of Aaron Rodgers at the start too.
Yeah.
Because he's got the athletic ability. He can play the position well, but I mean, he's still young, and there's still things that are going to break down that probably won't in, you know, 3 or 4 years. But I remember the one thing with Aaron, and it's similar, is he was a hell of an athlete. And if you recall those first couple of years, he didn't hesitate to take off. So like, I see some of the same things, and, you know, again, in 5 years, he might not run, but this year it makes sense. And he sort of tipped his hand too in the Texans preseason game. If you recall, he ran for a first down on 4th down, and the light went on, and you're like, oh, hold on a second. This is a threat here. And to Phil's point, Greg, I can't tell you how long it's been since the Vikings have had that type of threat where a quarterback can get something from what appears to be nothing.
Yeah, probably Culpepper and Cunningham. Like, you know,
Christian Ponder was sneaky fast, Judd. I feel like you're not giving enough credit.
Case Keenum could scramble a bit. I will give him that. But I mean, this is a whole dynamic that can open up the O'Connell playbook a little bit more too, I think.
Yeah, if you watched the Big Ten Championship, one of my favorite all-time highlights of JJ is he hands the ball off to Blake Corum, and he literally outruns Blake Corum down the sidelines and turns into a lead blocker for him. And when you saw that, you were like, man, that's just, you know, quarterbacks don't do that. And 2, that's just another level of athletic ability, speed. So, you know, you're getting that now as a quarterback in the league.
Greg, I want to stay on the topic of JJ's legs and in particular his throwing base. And I want to do it by zooming in to the beginning of the comeback on Monday night. You mentioned the throw down the sidelines to Jettas. The touchdown pass to Jettas was the first touchdown in that fourth quarter that ended up being the historic one with the 2 passing touchdowns and the rushing touchdown there. On that pass, if you're, you know, just watching the broadcast, in the moment, it looked like there was a weird throwing motion with JJ there. And so the next day, I went into the all-22 tape and zoomed in. And it turned out that Jordan Mason had him and JJ, their feet got tangled. Mason did a good job pass blocking on that rep, but he got pushed into the quarterback's base by the defender there. And JJ, he basically modulated his throwing motion mid-motion because he had already begun the throwing motion when Mason's legs start to get tangled with JJ's left leg. And he made the alterations to his throwing motion to be able to get out that missile to Jefferson 12 yards into that little window that was available in the end zone. You had the first guy go through and Jefferson right behind him, and you throw that missile in there. You talked to me a little bit about this, Greg, about the exact throwing mechanic that was in play when Mason's feet got tangled with JJ McCarthy. Can you bring the audience into that moment and tell them about the pop step?
Yeah. Pop step is our word for that. That's our language at Next Level.
Greg, we're going to hit you with your first football sounder here.
Football.
Let's go.
Let's talk football right now.
Yeah. So pop step's our word. That's just a, you know, language that I use. Everybody probably has their own adjective for what that is. And it's really like just a definition word. It's like popping your legs around to create more torque. And so when a right-handed quarterback for us is kind of rolling to his left, there's almost, you know, it's almost anatomically impossible to be running parallel to the sidelines and then twist your body the way that you need to. It's only going to go like, you know, a certain amount of degrees before you just can't turn it anymore. So years ago, we started to make a throw, and everyone's thrown this. It's not something new, but it's where you kind of like flip your hips and just kind of throw it off like a little snap. And I use it as a baseball analogy a lot. If you got a ground ball to the left, scoop it up with your glove and kind of flipped and threw the runner out. It's kind of the same thing. You don't usually use it from the pocket. So obviously you want to stand with a firm base and have, your legs planted in the ground. But I think because of just self-preservation, knowing that, he had somebody like the last thing a quarterback wants to have is, an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman at his legs, especially at his knee. So I'm sure he felt something in his way, whether it was his own lineman or a defensive lineman. And he felt like he needed to almost like pop his left leg back and over rotate his front leg. You'll see it's almost like kind of a jump move. And one that's going to get you extra power. You don't want to throw that way, but in that situation, to me, we talk about things with our quarterback play. It's all situational, right? And I use this analogy. I don't want to digress too much, but playing quarterback is like a handyman. You've got a toolbox and you've got all these tools inside of it. And probably on a day-to-day basis, you're going to pull out a hammer and a screwdriver and use that all the time. And then there are unique tools that you need to have in there that you're going to pull out every once in a while for specific situations. And the last thing you want to do is have to go to a Home Depot and buy that tool. You want to have it already in your toolbox. So we teach our kids, I don't care if this shows up once in your career or once a season. You want to have these kind of tools in your toolbox so when they do show up, it's not uncomfortable. You're used to doing it. And so I truly feel like from the training that we've done for years and years with the guy, that's a natural movement for him. And it just allowed him to create power and torque and throw obviously a very, like you said, a small window on time, high level throw. So yeah, I didn't see that actually happen until the replay. Just from my vantage point. And when I saw it, I was like, I've seen that before.
Yeah.
So
What's the tool where Patrick Mahomes is horizontal to the ground and throwing that? Some of these guys are insane in 2025.
And that's a great point. You didn't throw those throws 10, 15 for sure years ago. Those are the throws where your offensive quarter is like, no. And now it's become mainstream, right? And it's funny when I'm training, kids want to throw all these wacky off-platform throws. And you've got to have the fundamentals first and foremost, right? I made a comment on Twitter that was about fundamentals, something, and a guy, responded back fundamentals. Yeah, obviously, fundamentals are at the forefront of being able to make those off-platform, awkward, uncomfortable throws. If you don't have good fundamentals, you can't possibly make some of those high-level throws. So you got to have the fundamentals at the core.
That's like my mom told me when I was a kid with regards to writing. She said, Thor, you got to know the rules before you break them.
Yeah,
exactly.
You have to learn the proper rules of punctuation before you want to start doing run-on sentences and the ellipses and that sort of stuff. That's a really interesting point, Greg. On Sunday night here coming up, McCarthy's going to have a rematch against Michael Penix, and from the national championship game, obviously in 2023. I think they're interesting sort of stylistic comparisons as archetypes of quarterbacks. I think about Michael Penix as a sniper. When he has that throwing base under him, it's like sort of stilts and he's up on that. And when he's not moved off that spot, the accuracy, the velocity is generally tremendous with Michael Penix. My issue with him coming out was when you pushed him off the spot the accuracy started to depreciate. And this brings me back to McCarthy and the thing we were just talking about with his throwing base and the different modulations you guys have made to allow him to throw with accuracy and velocity, whether it's on the move, whether it's in his situation, his NFL debut, when you're trying to come back at the beginning, when your running back is tangled up with your throwing base, all these different things. I'm curious with McCarthy, that sort of archetype. Did you notice this early of this kid is going to be super skilled throwing on the run and we should work on that more? Or what sort of was the process with that? And then I'm hoping you can zoom people in on McCarthy's development, prior to Ann Arbor, of developing that out of structure, off platform ability, the throwing ability that he has when he doesn't always have that base under him.
Yeah. He came in as a 7th grader. And I flat out said to him after our first session, I don't think I've seen a 7th grader throw a football the way you throw it. Your mechanics are pretty good. So your dad's done a really good job up to this point. They can need some tweaking, but overall solid. It just comes off your hand so clean. Like, it's a really pretty spiral. It spins really well. And he was small. Like, he was frail. He was undersized. He wasn't the kid that he is today. And I told him, I said, your biggest hurdle is probably going to be your size. You're not very tall. You're skinny. And so your mechanics and your fundamentals have to be elite. You've got to work on those more than anything else. And, and he did. And I saw very early on that I could throw something at him and he would nail it and then almost try to make it even harder. Like he's trying to make the drill harder on his own. And I started to go, I can really start to push this guy. And so what's interesting is after his freshman year of high school, I don't know what happened, but he turned into a 6'1 plus, 180 pounds. Like, he got the size. And because he had worked so diligently on the fundamentals for 2 years, I just feel like he evolved into this super elite level quarterback that now had the physical body to go with these elite level mechanics and the ability to throw off platform. Never have I ever seen a kid that can throw like that. I mean, he started to do these goofy 360 throws in training. You've seen probably some of the videos of that. Thor, I sent you some of the videos where he's like hopping over a hurdle and throwing off one leg. Like, I just started to throw the most obscure stuff at him that may never happen in a game. Like, when are you going to jump over a guy and make a throw? But I was like, let's do it. And so I think he's just always pushed himself too. I heard Aaron Rodgers say once that, he's been around the league so often that when he's in practice, he just tries to make drills harder because it gets boring, right? And I think JJ's kind of wired the same way. He's just like, I'm going to make something harder. I'm going to nail what I'm being asked to nail. And then after I start to get that down, I'm going to make it harder. So I tried to push him. He's been a challenge because he gets so good at something and you've got to like really get creative to make him do other things. And he's just continued to evolve. So you've watched this kid that had very clean, fundamentally sound mechanics as a kid, as a 12-year-old, and then just work on those. And so, I preach to our quarterbacks all the time. It's about the little things. It's about the small, little, boring things you guys might hate. Please nail that down. Stop trying to focus on the end result so much. I want to throw a spiral and I want to throw it accurately. That's not the process. It's so many more steps before that happens. So JJ has been, kind of the poster child for fundamentals, growing into his body, becoming just this elite level quarterback. And then he just has continued to turn into, it's crazy that he gets better and better.
Greg, we've seen and heard little anecdotes throughout the last year and a half about just work ethic, and even when he was unable to play physically because of the knee injury last year, some of the homework behind the scenes. You've known him for 10 years. Do you have any anecdotes or stories behind the scenes about his work ethic?
Yeah, he's always, it's funny when he went to college, I think I asked him once, like, what are the girls like at Michigan? And he was like, I don't know. I don't care. Right. Like, and I was like, what do you do? And he said, man, I just go and I find a space and as I'm talking to his dad, it sounds like he would go into the woods or somewhere quiet and roll down a blanket and just sit and meditate and kind of just be in his own world. And you saw him do all that stuff at the base of the goalpost at Michigan. He's just been this ultimate preparation guy. He reads books on Navy SEALs and studies just all kinds of different things. He's very much into mental performance and headspace and all of those things. And so, it's the work ethic, of course. The only real story that I can really remember that comes to mind is I know he was at IMG and his head coach sent, I think, to his dad, Jim McCarthy, a video, and Jim then sent it to me. And it was an off day, or they weren't practicing, or maybe it was after. And JJ was literally doing what Drew Brees did. He was out in the field all by himself, and he was taking snaps by himself, dropping back, throwing, like pretending to throw, pretending to go through his progressions, pretending to hand off, like literally going through the playbook. And I think the coach's name was Bobby Acosta, and I could hear him in the background going like, man, nobody does. Who does this? Like it's just, he was amazed that an 18, 17 at the time year-old kid would do that. Kind of a side story, like, that just talks about his maturity and just where he's dialed in. I think he was a freshman or a sophomore at Michigan, and I was watching the NFL draft, and I sent him a text. I said, "Are you watching the NFL draft?" And he said, "I am." And I said, "You're going to be here in a year." And he responded back. He said, "Coach, it's already happened. Time just hasn't caught up with it yet." Mm. And I was like, who are you, man? Like, what 19-year-old is that level of just maturity and drive and focus, And I think he followed up something along the lines of, it's not about walking up on the stage and getting a hat. It's about getting a Super Bowl for whatever city I'm in. And I just was like, man, that's insane,
So let's go back and drill down on that a bit too, because he clearly was born with a special factor, right? But you've coached him since 7th grade. And I'm just curious, how much of this was in him when you first met him in 7th grade, and how much he evolved, and I would call it a mental toughness in life, not just football. How much of it evolved through like his bout with, it sounds like, depression at IMG. The meditation starts then. Like, these are all gradual steps. Mm-hmm. So like, what could you tell, just as far as the personality goes, from the moment that you first met him as a kid to then, struggling at times in life, but figuring out how to overcome those struggles, which quite frankly, I thought was in play on Monday night. He just sort of looked at things. He got super excited when things went well, but even the pick six, I don't want to say he didn't care. He cared, but he showed you nothing. Right. So like, how much did you see him evolve as a human to get to where he is right now in the mental game?
Yeah. Credit to Megan and Jim McCarthy. They have raised just a great young man. He's been surrounded by just a very solid foundation of family. They're a hardworking, middle class, kind of blue collarish family from the Midwest. And so I think he was raised with a lot of good morals and ethics. He's always been polite, very yes, sir, no, sir. If you've seen him in a media room, I will bet you any money that he knows the names of every single person that's sitting in that media room and calls them by their name.
He does.
And,
I can confirm that. Yep.
Yeah. And that's just his preparation and his character and who he is. So I saw this very kind, smiling, friendly, just energetic and magnetic young man as a kid. And, you see that and you're like, oh, wow, this kid is like, really friendly and has a bubbly personality and whatever. And then you kind of saw him morph into like a young man, and it got to this, like, he's going to be a freaking killer, man. Like, he's just going to be a little bit different. And you saw that in the game. Again, I was sitting with Bears fans and literally just ripped their hearts out, and he was struggling and obviously had to overcome in front of, how many ever people inside the stadium on national TV. And you could probably go, man, this is, I guess, the way that this game's going to go, right? Yeah. I'm going to throw an interception. We're going to lose. I'm going to look like shit. Sorry. And it's going to be like, oh, it was his first game, he could make all the excuses. And I guarantee you, knowing him the way that I do, he was like, man, it's not going to go down this way. It's just not. So his mental preparation, I think, has really carried him through things. And I think he's developed that. I think it's internally, it's a part of his DNA, but I think he's also trained himself through mental performance and just all the things that he's got to do to focus on meditation. I know he's a very spiritual person. So, it's no surprise that the mental had to take over when the physical maybe wasn't going so well for him.
Hey, Thor, why don't you take the last one here with Greg? And this does not have to be the last time Greg makes an appearance on Purple Daily, but we want to be respectful of his time and do some other things here. But Thor, you get the last crack here with Greg.
Greg, I want to ask you a question that is specific to you with regards to this situation. You start working with the kid in 7th grade, and by the time he leaves, I suppose it was IMG because Nazareth he left the year before, but when he leaves high school, he's a 5-star recruit. Ryan Day in Ohio State, that whole thing with breaking their word to him, and then he goes to Michigan. He has his decorated career. He never loses to Ohio State. Ohio State has still not beaten Michigan since that time. By the last season, the 3rd year there, even though there was all that the turmoil going on with the Michigan program and the NCAA coming after Harbaugh and the suspensions there, the opposing fans were like hissing at the buses in Michigan, different stuff like this. Everyone wanted Michigan to lose in 2023. And McCarthy, after that Bowling Green game in early September where he threw 3 interceptions, the rest of that season, when Michigan was the only team that we know that wasn't doing anything nefarious because they were under active investigation, they play this gauntlet schedule with Iowa, Penn State, Ohio State, Alabama, the national title game. McCarthy only throws 1 interception over those final 12 games. He's just lights out. Then he declares for the NFL draft, and it's like this decorated kid with all the physical ability and all this different stuff. But then you start hearing things in the media of he's too small, he doesn't have a good arm, he's not a good athlete, he does not throw good off platform. You go through this entire pre-draft process where, Greg, you had to be hearing things every single day that you knew for a fact was not true. I'm curious, sort of like, that year and a half, obviously I'm asking this question because on the media side, I was sort of in this boat, but for the last year and a half, how did you sort of deal with these false narratives in the media? And how did you sort of regard that stuff where you had people with platforms saying things that you knew not to be true?
Yeah, it's hard not to react to that because, I don't know, just Papa Bear kind of like, don't mess with my kid kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I also was like, you guys just don't know. You don't know. You don't know the kid, right? Like, and it's the offense that he played in Michigan. It wasn't very dynamic. I mean, if he went to Oklahoma or Oregon or somewhere like that, he'd throw 50 times a game and he probably would have won the Heisman Trophy.
100%.
Thrown 4,500 yards in the season or something crazy.
Swap him with Jaden Daniels, by the way, on that LSU team in 2023. They would have statues built for JJ McCarthy in Baton Rouge. And yes, he would have been the Heisman winner that year.
Yeah. And so it's like you're going to knock a guy for the situation that he was in, and which he has no control over. But the funny thing is, if you ask him, he could care less about the Heisman Trophy. He didn't care about his stats. He wanted to win a national championship with the guys that he helped bring to Ann Arbor and the family that he put together there. And that was more important than anything. And when he went into his pro day and threw for NFL teams, certainly his arm talent and all the things that he, needed to do in a static environment like that would show up. But I knew once he started to play in a competitive environment, you would see all the things that I've known he could do for years. So it's one of those things where you can get frustrated and get angry and get upset at the guys that are talking negatively. But I was just like, just wait, man, just wait. Kind of like on Monday, I was like, just wait, just see how he responds, see what he's got. I don't think Monday is any different than that situation that he went in. It was, hey, I'm going to take all the negative that I've heard about me and I'm going to show people. And I don't think he cares about showing them. He's just being who he is. Right. And so, I am excited to see the guy that so many people had all these check marks about in a negative column, turn them into the other column and say, oh yeah, he can run. And now he has this arm talent. Now he can do this. We were wrong. It's like, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Awesome stuff, man. Greg Holcomb. And by the way, like that fourth quarter doesn't mean that he's no road bumps ever again. Like this,
right.
There's going to be it's going to be bumpy at times for a young quarterback in a crazy league. So I think people want this like light bulb moment and then a linear progression. And he might throw 2 picks against the Falcons on Sunday. And it's all going to be part of the growth process.
It's the process, and it's like, I think he's in an ideal environment too. Some people may or may not know this, but when we were at the draft party in Ann Arbor, it was in a private house, and the family literally was, I don't want to say praying, but they were like speaking it into existence to play in Minnesota. And because he gets to do that, I think he's just, man, I don't know if there's any place he'd rather be. Kind of like what he said in the huddle, but I think this is, the umbrella theme for him. He's in a great environment with a great head coach, a surrounding cast of coaches and players. I said it on Twitter yesterday. There's not a guy in that locker room that wouldn't step in front of a train for him, so it's a really good formula for success. And I can't wait to see what happens.
Greg Holcomb.
Awesome stuff.
Next level athletics, quarterback training. You can read more about it online. And if you're in the Chicago area, you might run into Greg and ask him some quarterback questions.
I need help, Greg. I just need some help. I got it in me. I know I do. I got that dog.
All right, we need a cortisone shot probably after.
Several of them.
All right.
Appreciate you, Greg.
Awesome, man.
All right,
Greg
man.
Holcomb.
Thank you guys. I really
Thanks for
appreciate it.
coming
My
on, man.
pleasure.
We're going to say bye to Greg, but we're going to keep it here with Thor. Thor, you got a few more minutes for us?
Of course.
Okay. And Dex will jump back in here. Judd, MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning helping to power this episode of Thor's Day Purple Daily.
Absolutely true. And if you are thinking about going ductless, which is a great call, just call MSP. They're a Mitsubishi Elite Diamond contractor for ductless, and they know what they are doing. They're going to get the job done. Do you have an older home, no ductwork? That's no problem. MSP specializes in smart and efficient ductless installs. These systems aren't cheap, so you want it done right. MSP is not only going to get the installation done, they're going to help you make the best decision for your home and your budget. Quiet, efficient, absolutely outstanding. Been serving the Twin Cities for more than 100 years. Local, trusted, and most importantly, committed to your comfort. That's MSP, 651-615-4292. Call MSP.com. Call MSP.com.
Also, look at these little Pepsi cups here. These are the commemorative Justin Jefferson Pepsi cups. Pepsi's the official beverage of the Minnesota Vikings. Make sure your fridge is stocked for this football season. And Pepsi is giving you a chance to win Victor's Ride, a Polaris 1000 ATV, which you can win when you get one of these cups. And I'll tell you how in a second. You scan the QR code, you can enter to win. So this Sunday, these cups are available inside US Bank Stadium. Soon they'll be available at Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh locations and a fun third location, which we would talk about later on this season here. So go get your Justin Jefferson souvenir cups on Sunday Night Football at US Bank Stadium and soon at Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh locations. And speaking of US Bank Stadium, let's talk about that awesome stadium here for a second, if we could, boys. Dex is muted over there.
Son of you know what.
There
All right,
we
so US Bank Stadium.
There we are.
US Bank Stadium. I was so excited to talk about the tour that I had to mute myself because I was just saying expletives of how exciting this could be. So before each Vikings game, when they're home each weekend, you can go to usbankstadium.com to book a private tour. We've talked about the locker rooms, which are extensive. Again, I don't know if you can see Judd's press box seat, but you can get a full-on experience at US Bank Stadium before. So go to usbankstadium.com to book your private tour today.
That's actually, I've been on that thing. That's good. My only piece of constructive criticism is in the press box where Judd sits. They need to make that chair gold. Like, remember in the old Metrodome with Kirby Puckett where the home run
The
landed?
gold seat?
The gold seat. They need to make that Judd seat in the press
They
box.
do. They can have the little camp notes inside of a glass container.
That's a long shot. I'll just put it that way. That's a long shot.
Thor, we just want to kind of give you the floor for a few minutes here. And by the way, Thor connected us to Greg, and it was fun just getting like a 10-year perspective on JJ McCarthy from his private quarterback coach. They still work out, by the way. Like when I think there was a story from The Athletic that I saw from July that sometime this offseason, JJ says, "Hey, can you gather the troops at 6:00 in the morning?" But your thoughts on that game, man? Just you were watching that like the rest of us, and you've had really strong opinions on JJ McCarthy going back almost 2 years that flew in the face of what a lot of other analysts were saying. He throws the pick six in the third quarter. They've got like 70 yards of total offense, and then all you know what breaks loose in the fourth quarter. So take us through your perspective of that first game.
Yeah, it was a wild ride. As anyone out there who was watching it knows, the first half was a bit listless, and the whole offense did not appear to be on the same page. And by the way, the defense, where they were coming up really close in the first half, but they kept letting the Bears off the hook, to use an old Denny Greenism. in the second half, then the defense, the coming close to the conversion, now all of a sudden you start to cash in on the opportunities that we saw a glimpse of in the first half. You just weren't cashing them in, and there was something like that with the offense as well. You had a lot of a lot of moving parts. Of course, you had a 22-year-old quarterback in his NFL debut, the youngest QB1 in the NFL on the road in his hometown for his NFL debut. But then also you had the 3 new starters on the interior offensive line. You had your pass catching core, which had been banged up. You acquired the new starter a couple weeks ago in Adam Thielen at the end of August. Justin Jefferson was banged up for all of August. The timing with the young quarterback ostensibly wasn't there, and that would have been your theory going in, and we got sort of proof of life of that during the game. Jefferson, very uncharacteristic, 2 drops in a limited sample of targets in that game. I think last year, the entire season, he dropped 6. So, and then you saw a couple times he didn't get to the depth. And I mean, the guy missed a month, right? So, it's not any, I mean, that's sort of natural. Then you saw Thielen, in the drive after the pick 6, where they had a shot to convert on 3rd down, and the ball was right there for Thielen, and uncharacteristic drop there too. McCarthy certainly wasn't perfect. In the first half, right away in the game, there was issues with the timing of getting the play call in, and then the play clock was going down. That's obviously something that they have to button up. I'm not sure what was going on there. And then they just, like I said, just didn't seem to be on the same page. It wasn't like the pick 6 obviously was like the devastating play, but in the first half it was more like listless, and it was just this 3-and-out fest. And then obviously coming out of halftime with that pick 6 was utterly demoralizing, and then it was even more so the next drive where JJ looked to be. It's like all right, he kind of looks like he back, but then you fail on that conversion because of the drop. And then after that, in the fourth quarter, that's the kid that I was talking about for the last year and a half. The guy in the fourth quarter, you've seen that look in his face, and he couldn't miss in that fourth quarter. Historic. You had the 2 passing touchdowns. You had the rushing touchdown. And that game so quickly went from the Vikings are facing a double-digit fourth quarter deficit that there's no chance they can come back from, to, in a blink of an eye, the Vikings have a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter that the Bears are not going to be able to come back from. It happened so fast. And when McCarthy starts cooking, points start getting put on the board real quick. Bang, 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 like that. And they obviously piled on there. The one other point I wanted to make, like looking back at the game, sort of, the first half and like in particular, I'm talking about the first half. I don't think it was as bad for he wasn't perfect, far from perfect. He'd be the first one to say it, but I don't think it was quite as bad as maybe in the moment we were all sort of thinking, just with the offense not moving and whatnot. Kevin Cole used to work at PFF. He put out an interesting graph yesterday talking about quarterback efficiency and then adjusted quarterback efficiency. And the efficiency itself, you're talking about like the different stats and the rates and different stuff like that. When they adjust it, they bake in stuff like drops, interceptions, defensive pass interference, fumble, the opponent, weather in the game, etc. McCarthy was beneath the 20th quarterback in terms of overall efficiency. And this was the metric that Aaron Rodgers in his debut with the Steelers, where he ranked really high. If you just look at the sort of the rote box score of that, very good game. The adjusted EPA, those two guys flipped the most, with Rodgers coming down the most and McCarthy going up the most. In terms of adjusted EPA from over the weekend and week 1 of the NFL, McCarthy finished 12th. QB 12 in the NFL. He also, for our fantasy football players out there, he finishes quarterback 11. But again, like, I don't think it was in the moment as quite as horrifying as it might have seemed. You had, of course, Christian Darrisaw wasn't playing. The rest of the offensive line was awesome. Justin Skull, my boy, was not great.
He didn't skull.
Dude, the offensive line was charged with only 5 pressures the entire game, which is an incredible performance. 4 of the 5 were to Justin School.
It was a tough game for school, and we need Darrisaw back, obviously. But there was contributing factors going on there in the first half, including just getting up to speed with the speed of the NFL and getting the play calls in and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think the bad was quite as bad as as people were thinking in the moment. The fourth quarter was great, but Phil, you made a good point out the door with Greg. Like, this is a process. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. The stat we're looking for at the end of these games is a win. And McCarthy obviously was a catalyst in coming back to steal this game from the Bears.
Aren't you more impressed, though, by the fact that it was 3 quarters of struggle? And then, like, that's, to me, and I've said this a couple times this week, Thor, if they had won the game 28-7, okay, and McCarthy's great, we would all be raving about it. But the reality is he hasn't had his feet to the fire at all. Now he has, and you sort of saw, like, the thing about quarterback play that really intrigues me, the more and more I watch, is not just what they can do physically, it's the mental capacity to handle things. Like, last January, Sam Darnold against Detroit melted. It's as simple as that. There's no debate about it. He melted down. And it was at that point, I'm like, okay, you can't do this. Like, this is not going to work. You will never win a Super Bowl. And I'm not saying that McCarthy will, but I am saying what we saw in game 1 with a lot of adversity on the road, he did not play well for 3 quarters when you look at what they wanted. The entire team didn't, or I should say the offense didn't. And he won the game. They won the game. Like, I'm more impressed by this.
Yeah, Judd, what you're talking about, we had an interesting snapshot of exactly that concept in the first game of McCarthy against Caleb Williams, right? Caleb Williams at the beginning of that game. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I was like, uh-oh. Look, because I know good Caleb and I know bad Caleb, and good Caleb came out, and that guy was dealing, and he made a couple throws there. That one on the sideline when he was scrambling out to the right, and I thought he'd run out of time, hitting the dude on the hands before he went out of bounds. He had a couple throws there where there's 2 or 3 human beings walking the earth that could make that throw, and it was like, man, we got good Caleb. This is going to be a long night. And then there was a couple plays that went against the Bears. You had some drops, you had some failed conversion things. And it seemed as the game went on that more and more Caleb Williams was looking for excuses within his own mind to explain away why things are going bad where it wasn't his fault, right? And it was like, and it got worse and worse. And then by the end of the game, the Bears offense, which at the beginning looked awesome, like, how are we going to stop this offense? It was totally feeble. By the end of that game, you weren't, I'm afraid at all that they were going to come back. They were going to put 2 touchdowns on the board last 2 drives. Whereas with McCarthy, it was the exact opposite. Everything went wrong at the beginning. All the stuff that we talked about. Also, one thing we didn't, this is a new offense. Usually we don't talk about like that when you have the whole coaching staff coming back and the play caller and and different stuff like that. But the offense has dramatically changed. Last year it was heavily skewed towards downfield passing because that was Sam Darnold's prerogative. This offense, and we talked about this as sort of a preview for folks like over the summer, the differences between Darnold and McCarthy's game and how we expected that to manifest in offensive strategy on the field. And that's exactly what we saw. Using the quarterback's legs more, which we got into with Greg there a bit, and then getting the bootleg concepts. You're going to see a lot more passing in the intermediate area. And then those deep shots, which were so prevalent last year, where the deep shot was being used to create space for the running game, for instance, and the intermediate receivers. Now you're going to have that flipped, where all the stuff the Vikings offense does good, the running game, McCarthy's legs, the intermediate passing efficiency, that's going to open up your one-on-one shots downtown. So just sort of an inverse with that. But McCarthy being able to sort of battle back through that when he had every reason to, whether it's quit or whether it's just, like maybe this is not our night, let's just sort of move on. I think most of the fan base was like that, right? Like after the pick 6, like this just is not going to be our day. And that guy believed, him and O'Connell, it seemed like they were the 2 people that believed the most there. Like, we're going to win this game. We're going to win this game. And you've seen that look in McCarthy's eye. He started to come back off with that throw to Jefferson where Jordan Mason was tangled in his throwing base, and he still gets off an absolute missile on the hands into that window. And then the next one with Aaron Jones, a very good read down there. He beat double coverage downfield just because Jones had gotten behind it. You get it to him on time, another touchdown there. And then, of course, that RPO that you were talking about where he tucks it and he goes around the side. And Kevin O'Connell was screaming like a barbarian on the sideline. You know, JJ was doing his thing. And it was like A Star Is Born. You know, like, and you know, not just the plays themselves and those 3 touchdowns consecutively like that to roar back, but what had come before that, and finding not the reason to quit or not the reason to pack it in, but no matter how bleak the circumstances in, you are looking for the reason we are going to win this game. I said after McCarthy got drafted, JJ McCarthy will change the way that this fan base interacts with this team. He's going to change the way the Viking fans think. This was one example of that.
Dude, so our friends at 5 Eyewitness News, where our guy Doogie does his A job, so they had a photographer, like a videographer down with a field pass down there in the back of that end zone where the Vikings were pouring in the touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And it's one of the coolest shots. He's a field level camera standing on the white of the sideline as JJ McCarthy runs into the end zone for the 10-point lead. And the offensive line runs down there, and you can hear they left the audio up, and so they all met him. But Brian O'Neill specifically runs up to McCarthy, grabs him, and he's yelling at him in his face, "You effing sicko! You effing sicko!" I mean, it was a bunch of, they look at him as like a little brother, but also a leader, and you saw the whole thing kind of manifest. And again, he might come out and throw a pick on the first. There's going to be 2 steps back. It's going to be a learning curve this season, but man, to just watch his presence and his play bring everything together in the fourth quarter was a really unique experience for this franchise.
Amen. And in the postgame, you know, in the locker room when Kevin O'Connell, he was starting out his speech to the team, I thought it was really interesting that he looked at the rest of the team and he was like, we all knew that he was going to bring us back. Yeah. You're talking about a 22-year-old making his NFL debut again on the road in an outdoor game in his hometown against a team that passed on him twice in the top 10 off a 600-plus day layoff. Missed last season with the knee injury, and this is a veteran NFL coach who has had a lot of success in Kevin O'Connell talking to a veteran roster, right, that is built to win now. And he's saying we all knew in this room that kid was going to bring us back. Really cool moment there with the touchdown run and the team and the coaching staff's reaction to that. And then the comments after that. The vibes are immaculate right now.
Can I give you guys, and I saw it on Monday. I didn't think of it until now, but sort of like the demeanor thing. So just the demeanor, the difference in demeanor, because I think the mental discussion on this is so intriguing between JJ McCarthy and Caleb. Okay. So, and O'Connell talked about this at least partially in his press conference on Wednesday. So they bring in the guy that does the Blackhawks anthem to sing the anthem before the flyover that takes place, Jim Cornelison. And this guy is famous in Chicago. And JJ grew up a big Blackhawks fan. And the thing is, when he sings at a Blackhawks game, the fans cheer constantly, like they don't die down. So fans were doing the same thing. They showed JJ, and he is like, first of all, this is not new to him, but second of all, he's dialed in, right? Like he is like he's ready to go. And they show Caleb, and he's sort of like looking around and laughing, and he can't make out why it's like this. And I just think things like that to me is so instructive of the difference in how you mentally process something. And it might seem small, but I think it's important. I think it's big. Like, here is your Bears quarterback sort of like, what the hell is this all about? And JJ's just like laser focused. And that's what I want. I want you to be a sicko. I want you to be so in and so hyper aware of your surroundings and like what you're going to do that you're not laughing about the anthem. And I just thought it was very instructive to see the two different personalities and reactions.
Yeah, that's right. One of the mindsets, it's built to find the answer no matter the circumstance. Right, no matter the odds that are stacked against you, that you believe you will find that answer. And the other one, it seems like it's sort of the inverse, right? With Caleb Williams, where it seems like he's looking for the reason that they're going to fail, and you see the way that not only the belief of teammates and this sort of unquantifiable stuff, but literally the play of each of those guys once that game got into pressure cooker time. Right. I mean, Caleb Williams all of a sudden did not look like he should have been drafted ahead of JJ McCarthy. And JJ McCarthy was making an argument, as was my opinion, that he should have been a top 3 quarterback in that class.
Yeah. We do have a random Viking of the week queued up here. And if you have to bounce, you go ahead and peace out. Or if you want to,
I'm willing to put my perfect record on the line here.
That was the question, because you're 1-1 all time in the random Viking of the week. And so Declan has the clues here that we're going to get to in a moment, and we'll explain how it works if maybe you're new to Purple Daily this week. Couple things real quick here before we get to Random Viking. Purple Daily hit 7th on the Apple Football Podcast charts this morning. Like, of all of the football podcasts, it's just Apple, and there's Spotify and YouTube are the 3 biggest podcast platforms. But here are as you wake up this morning, JJ McCarthy Mania. Pardon My Take is the #1 football podcast in America this morning. The Herd with Colin Cowherd, Thor's guy. The Pat, who's, by the way, like very much getting back on the bandwagon of McCarthy here.
Yeah, sure is.
He's Montana.
Pat McAfee Show #3. The Dude Perfect podcast #4. Bussin' with the Boys is 5. And Josh Pate's College Football Show is 6. With Purple Daily coming in 7, just ahead of Club Shay Shay.
Wow.
Oh, we beat Club Shay Shay.
We did.
We're ahead of, now his stock went down a little bit a month ago, but that's pretty
take
cool.
it.
Thank you guys, audience, for
I have to say, as a a personal aside, on Monday night after that game, I'd just been through all the we'd all been through all the emotions.
Your career's on the line.
People would get fired at halftime.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, they wanted me out. But yeah, like after that game, we were just sort of sitting there, and it's and we flipped on Ventline, and what an incredible, was it 90 minutes you guys went?
It was probably close to 2 hours.
Yeah,
They're gonna be long vent lines this year, baby. Let's do it.
Oh man, I needed that. I texted Phil this afterwards. I was like, I was happy I didn't have to do that, because I was like an emotional wreck, and I was just spent at that point. So like I don't think I would have said anything cogent on Monday night, but like that was you guys did a great job with that, and obviously the audience showed up, and we were there with you.
We all learned an important lesson, though, and that's this: JJ McCarthy and Twitter are not a great combination in the sense that you can very easily in the third quarter say, this guy stinks, he's no good, fire Thor.
Thor lied
and
to
shortly
us.
Thereafter, the Vikings can have a 10-point lead. Like this was, I feel like there's a lot of quarterbacks who, if that was the start, you at halftime, you call for Thor's job.
He's not ready, and the Vikings coaching staff knows it.
And he's not him, nor is him. But JJ, it's like, ooh, there's a lot of tweets now circulating that people are like, I think I'm going to go back and delete that one.
Yeah, I mean, like late second quarter, halftime, and then through that pick six. Folks don't want to see what my mentions look like. I only gandered in there once or twice.
I saw your mentions.
Once, and it was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that much human hate existed. But I had the thought to myself, I ain't see one handle here that's tweeting at me right now that appears to have watched JJ McCarthy at Michigan. And the thing that I would tell people out there, if you don't have that exposure to McCarthy game, this is not a guy that you want to make a referendum in a game through 2 quarters, much less a career. I saw the kid do what he did on Monday night over and over and over again at Michigan, and in huge spots. He did it to Nick Saban in the last game Nick Saban ever coached. Pasadena, California semifinals of the 2023 CFP. Alabama should have won that game. The reason they didn't is because of JJ McCarthy. If it wasn't for McCarthy, Saban would have retired a national champion, or he would have come back to college. But I've seen it over and over and over again. So people are like, oh, why aren't you tweeting, Thor? It's like, because I'm not willing to throw the towel in on his career on a kid that I've seen for years do this over and over and over again. And a special moment that he did it in his NFL debut. Vintage JJ McCarthy.
You know what actually happened is JJ called Minnesota Rusco at halftime and said, I need the first half remodeled into something different. Can you help me? And Minnesota Rusco delivered. Cody and Casey do a great job at Minnesota Rusco. 70 years of experience that company has in providing all of your interior and exterior home improvement needs. Windows, doors, siding, bathrooms, kitchens, decks, roofing. So whatever that project is that you've been hemming and hawing on, you've been talking to your wife or your husband about, man, that kitchen we've been talking about for 3 years. Now is the time. They always have great monthly specials to help make it an easier decision for you financially at Minnesota Rusco. So if you're looking to make your remodel a reality, turn to the experts at Minnesota Rusco, which was the official State Fair deck sponsor for us too. So we appreciate them making the State Fair an awesome experience. MinnesotaRusco.com. I bet
Phil.
McCarthy's going to be a hot one on Underdog too. Yeah, Thor, what's up, man?
Well, isn't it since 1955?
What did I say?
No.
No,
But you got it right.
No, you
Look
got it
at
right.
you.
Very
It
good.
is-
Nice job. Yeah.
You made corrections.
It's a long time. So long, in fact. McCarthy, I don't know if people know this, 10-plus point fourth quarter deficit overcome, and people are tossing out there he's the first one since Steve Young. Steve Young did that at home. McCarthy, the first one to do it on the road, overcome a 10-plus point fourth quarter deficit in his NFL debut since 1950. Even before Minnesota Rusco was the last time that
That's
happened.
wild, dude. Think about that. I think Cody and Casey should include that in their messaging going forward.
They should.
It's historic.
They should. Yeah.
What's happening on Underdog here right now, Dex?
Yeah, so I just opened the app, and it looks like I have a no sweat token, which is great. So if your pick'em doesn't hit, you get your $5 back. And I also have a 75% profit boost token also ready to use. These are the good things at Underdog that they'll give you here when you're a user. When you sign up too with promo code SCORE, SKOR, you will also still get $50 when you play $5. So if you're looking to get in on some action, higher or lower on the pick'em, on the daily fantasy, go download the Underdog app. Send me your wins too. I love seeing our Purple Daily audience win some big time dough at Underdog. Go download the Underdog app. Promo code SCORE.
And then, Judd, before we get to the random Viking here, Minnesota Lottery on board for the 2025 Purple Daily season here.
Absolutely. And guess what? You can win big with our friends and the Vikings scratch game, which is out again. And yes, you can combine the opportunity to win and the opportunity to watch the Vikings win all at the same time. Just say, I'm in the lottery, the Vikings scratch game. Check it out, participate, have fun, possibly win big.
Oh. All right, dudes, here we go. It's time for the random Viking of the week. We reset this thing a few months ago after 3 years and 160 random Vikings, and we took a hiatus from it, but the people demanded the random Viking of the week come back here. So, updated standings. I have 9 wins. Judd has 8 wins. Declan has 1 win, and Thor's 1 for 1. So he's looking to keep his perfect record intact here. Dex will give out the clues. The last handful of random Vikings are Anthony Barr, Sharif Floyd, Sam Howell, Chester Taylor, Chris Carter. We all get up to 3 incorrect guesses. We can shout out guesses whenever we want. If one of us hits a third incorrect guess, you're eliminated, and then there's 2 left, and we go from there. So, Dex, here we go.
All right.
No cheating, no Googling.
No cheating, no Googling. That is correct.
If Thor guesses a random Viking that's already been guessed, we will give him that freebie because he doesn't have the list. But if Thor becomes a regular participant, we will get him the list at some point.
Okay. This random Viking of the week was a Pro Bowler. This random Viking of the week played for 7 NFL teams.
Okay.
This random Viking of the week is a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley, according to his LinkedIn.
He's a Pro Bowler, though.
Was he a Pro Bowler as a Viking?
No.
Okay.
He claims on his LinkedIn he's a vice president financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. I went to Morgan Stanley's website and their board. He is not listed as their VP.
Well, there's like local,
but you know,
he's not like there's like local branches. Vice president titles get handed out.
Aspersions are being cast right now.
Stolen valor.
Yeah, he's a financial advisor.
Okay. All right.
This random Viking of the week won a Super Bowl. Not with the Vikings.
Well, we know he didn't win it with the Vikings.
I didn't want you to add that one.
Wait, okay. Is this Big Bad Brad Johnson?
Big Brad Johnson. Big Bad Brad Johnson. Fun alliteration there. Incorrect. It is not Brad
He didn't
Johnson.
play for 7 teams, right?
I mean, he played for a lot of teams. He played for
Vikings,
Tampa,
Washington,
Vikings, Commanders,
Tampa.
Cowboys for sure. And I thought maybe he would have snuck onto a couple other teams.
Okay, all right. Phil's got a strike against him. Financial advisor. I mean, who's good with their money?
It's a random Viking of the week. This might help Thor. I don't know. He's a big college football guy. He did win a Fiesta Bowl once upon a time.
Fiesta Bowl.
I'm struggling because you've given us nothing to put a
Yeah.
position or the side of the football.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that it's one of two positions
Okay.
based on the current clues.
Okay.
Strongly disagree.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with you.
It's
Disagree with
it's
me.
very clearly one of two positions. I will strongly state that claim.
Okay.
Which one's
all
Phil?
I'm not gonna tell you.
You can't.
Yeah.
can't
Don't
tell.
trust.
Well, he
Don't
could
trust.
tell you.
Don't
Thor,
trust.
okay, yeah, Thor. It's either a safety or a linebacker.
You know what? You know what? Don't trust Phil. He can be sure of himself and wrong sometimes. So
Oh, really?
don't take his advice.
Okay.
All right, let's keep going.
This random Viking of the week was a 6th round draft pick.
Okay, this helps.
By the Vikings.
Oh.
Sixth round pick. I think so. 6th round pick.
You son of a
No, that helps.
6th round pick by the Vikings.
Pro Bowl player.
Did they draft? It's not him. Oh man.
This random Viking played in 2 decades. To be official with it, 14 years.
It's a slot cornerback.
No, it's not.
Stop
Benny
trying
Sa-
to trick me.
It's not Benny Sapp.
It's not
Not Benny Sapp.
Penny the Sap, no.
7 NFL teams in 14 years, just
6.
bouncing around,
6th round pick, but he was a Pro
grinding his
Bowler.
career, just hanging on, grinding.
A sixth round pick just came to mind, and there is no way he is a financial advisor. So
Wow. Are you gonna throw the name out, or you're not even gonna guess?
no,
Okay.
no. I'm not giving up anything right now. I'm keeping everything.
Adrian
close to the vest.
Peterson.
I'm competing against you and Thor. Are you kidding?
Oh man.
All right, so 2 decades, 14 years. Yeah, this dad played 2 decades and 14 years.
6th round pick. Finkel and Einhorn. Einhorn.
Next clue, please.
Finkel.
This random this random Viking of the week played in just 2 games with the Vikings.
You
14 years.
You son of a gun.
All right, I'm going to give you this clue, and I feel like the wheels should start turning, and someone might even shout out an answer. So that's a clue before the clue. The clue is this random Viking shared locker rooms with arguably some of the best quarterbacks of all time. Like, it is insane the locker rooms he was in with Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
2 games with the Vikings. Hall of Fame.
Multiple
quarterbacks.
Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
Two games.
I know, like, JT, it's not JT O'Sullivan. JT O'Sullivan claims he has, spent all this time, and he has. He's, like, been on,
JT
what, like
O'Sullivan.
13, 15 rosters, and he has, like, some quirk of, like,
Sean Hill.
Is that an official guess?
Yeah, I guess.
Incorrect. It is not Sean Hill.
Oh.
And JT O'Sullivan didn't sniff a Pro Bowl. He barely sniffed playing time. Nice guy. Heck of
JT
a
O'Sullivan.
My next guess will be the end for me if I'm wrong. You guys
Yep.
have not guessed yet.
So can we get? Are we going to eventually get some of these quarterbacks, or are we just going to be told it's litany
Sure.
of Hall of Fame quarterbacks?
Sure. Some of these Hall of Fame quarterbacks were Kurt Warner, Brett Favre, Joe Montana, Steve Young.
Okay. Is this Steve Bono?
There he is.
Let's go!
Oh,
Steve
wow.
Bono.
Steve Bono!
Oh,
Steve
wow.
Bono.
Snap!
Wow,
Well done, Phil.
nice, Phil. Nice,
pull.
very nice.
Old
I was
school
not on
pull.
that. Yep.
Wow, dude.
If you hate quarterback wins as a stat, you will not like Steve Bono.
Yep.
Steve Bono with a 75.3 career passer rating was 28-14 as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Bounced around
Dude,
all over the place.
He was the third string guy behind Montana and Young in like the early
Nice
work,
90s 49ers, right?
Yep.
That's a hell of a
Yep.
Denny
come up with that.
Green.
I was not on
Denny
the
Green era.
I was not on the
Vikings
Steve Bono path
you.
there at all.
I wouldn't have gotten that one.
Who's ever
I didn't
really on
remember
the
he was
Steve-
drafted by the
No.
Vikings.
Well, it started because the JJ McCarthy, Steve Young stat that dropped on Monday Night Football, and then I went down a wormhole of Steve Young on Wikipedia, and then like Steve Bono, I was like, Steve Bono, didn't he start his career at the Vikings? And I was like, this is a perfect
Yeah.
random Viking of the week.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
it
he was Jerry Burns, actually. Yeah, that was way back. It was like 85, 86.
Oh, yeah,
he
85
predate-
draft.
He got
he was,
waived, went
yeah.
to Pittsburgh, then landed in San Francisco, where he was like the second string, third string. He went 5-1 in 1991 as when he filled in for Montana.
Well, that's when you just had to have guts to play quarterback.
Yeah, looking over this, he kind of looks like it's like the Chase Daniel of that era, except he never criticized JJ McCarthy.
And now he's crawling back
Keeping receipts
on his YouTube.
Someone's keeping receipts on this show.
Well, maybe me. Well, maybe.
Keeping receipts.
Love it, man.
I had
Thor,
to ask
great.
Greg. I had to ask Greg that question, by the way.
Yeah, I love
yeah?
Greg being in a suite
had to.
at Soldier Field just with a bunch of raging Bears fans halfway through the third quarter. Man, what an experience that
He
was.
must have been like Khaleesi up there when the dragons start flying around and burning the city down in the fourth quarter. Greg must have been looking around that suite like, yeah.
Are you not entertained?
Exactly.
Yes. Awesome, man. Thor Nystrom from Matthew Berry's FantasyLife.com every Thursday here on Purple Daily. We've got the Dookie episode of Purple Daily 2 where we go into the in-depth injury report and some other JJ McCarthy conversations. Feedback Friday tomorrow. We'll make our picks on Saturday on Purple Daily. And then Sunday, Vikings Vent Line, again, right after Sunday Night Football. Chris Collinsworth going to slide in to start
Yes.
your night. The sports
I
dad
think
going
he
to
stopped doing
slide
that.
in to end it.
I think the slide-in is gone.
That's a grave mistake for his career if the slide-in's gone.
Well, I
God,
found
can't
out.
wait.
I
can't
found
wait.
out, and I'm not joking, there are some announcers with it in their contract where they will start with a one shot. And then, so the slide in is because I don't want you in my shot to start with. I want to make it clear who's in charge here.
Yeah.
Home
Oh, there it is.
debut Sunday night, second straight primetime game, second straight opportunity to beat a guy that was drafted above him right after Caleb. Now you get Penix. Joe Burrow, you're coming next.
The
but it's-
Barnstormer.
The
it's-
Barnstormer sliding in. Come on, Barney.
It's the Grim Reaper meme where he's going down the doors, JJ is, with his sickle.
Yeah.
You're next, Penix.
That's right, Michael. That's right, Barnabas.
That dog does not look real. It
This
looks
dog
like a
stiffens
stuffed
up when
toy.
you-
Because Barney's an intern. Here's the problem. He's not used to being on camera. Okay, one sports take. JJ McCarthy. He was great. Outstanding.
This needs to be a new segment.
The
Judd,
Barnstormer.
with Judd miming, Judd, what do they call it, ventriloquist with Barney. Just don't put your hand up there too far, Judd. You know, it is a live animal.
Please.
So, up the back of Barney.
I would not do that to the barn. The barnacle helps me, okay?
We
Bye,
got to
guys.
run for Judd, Thor, Dex. I'm Phil. This is Purple Daily. We'll see you guys tomorrow.